Thank you so much, Madam Chair. It's great to see you sitting there. Delegate Michelle Guyton, for the record. Committee, it's wonderful to be before you again, and I bring to you today for your consideration and hopefully a favorable report, House Bill 1381, addressing children in need of assistance permanency plan requirements. I think what we would love for you to understand is that children all have very unique needs, particularly children who are in need of assistance and are wards of the state. In my other life outside of here, I have been a part of these review hearings that determine permanency placement and the success of those. And I'm very excited to bring this bill to you because I think one of the things being left out of that process really is the unique need of each child and the ability of their placement to support, whether it's their health supports, their mental health supports, their educational needs, many other issues, particularly when it comes to kids who are going through transition, and we want them to have the tools that they need to be successful after they turn 18 and are on their own. So that's why I bring this bill to you, and I'm going to turn it over to my panel to give you more information, but I truly hope that I can get your favorite report on House Bill 1381. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Erica Lamont, and I serve as the Advocacy Director for Children's Rights for Maryland Legal Aid. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in strong support of HB 1383, and thank you, Delegate Guyton, for bringing this bill. Every day, Maryland Legal Aid represents thousands, and we have thousands and have for years represented thousands of children across the state of Maryland in child in need of assistance cases. Right now, Maryland law requires agencies to make reasonable efforts, but the term is defined only in the broadest of categories. In practice, this means that expectations are very dramatically different from case to case, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. HB 13 brings clarity, consistency, and accountability by defining reasonable efforts in concrete, reviewable terms that reflect what children actually need to thrive. And let me explain how this works for those of you that don't do this practice. So what happens is the department is responsible for providing certain reasonable efforts to meet the child's needs. We use these, what the court has or the statute has now in trying to hold the department accountable when they're not meeting the child's needs. But without specificity, it's very difficult for the court to make a non-reasonable efforts finding. It's very difficult to hold the department accountable. Actually, this bill is better for everyone, including the department, because in our experience, when this body changed the part of the statutes that's below this regarding when you turn 16, that part has specificity in it. And because of that, the department changed the way that they interacted, the way that they created their court reports, and it improved some of the accountability that we were able to bring for those clients. And we would like to do those for the rest of the clients of the rest of the foster children. We request a favorable report, and I'm available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Teresa.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Davis and members of the committee. For the record, Teresa Hessler, and I'm here today on behalf of the Maryland Association of Resources for Families and Youth, also known as MARFI. We are in strong support of House Bill 1383. This bill recognizes something very important, that permanency is not just about where the child lives, it is about how the child lives. HB 1383 strengthens permanency plans by requiring attention to the full spectrum of a child's needs, their physical health, their mental health, their educational continuity, their safety, their social development, financial literacy, their housing stability after case closure, and even the simple but critical manner of basic identification documents. For youth in foster care, meeting these needs can mean the difference between building a future or scrambling to find their footing. A child cannot enroll in school without proper records. They cannot access services for health. They cannot build independence without financial awareness, and they cannot heal without access to the mental health and therapeutic needs that they may need to access. The bill ensures that planning is intentional, comprehensive, and future-focused. It is about raising the standard from placement achieved to youth prepared. And for these reasons, we respectfully ask a favorable report on House Bill 1383. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips?
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Davis and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Diana Phillip. I'm the coordinator for the Coalition to Protect Maryland's Children. This bill, 1383, is actually one of our 4 priority bills this session that is child-centered. And we're looking at what the child needs, because a child that has been placed in the care, custody, control of the state deserves the best possible moving forward in transitioning into adulthood. This bill comes from the concerns from foster parents, the CASA volunteers, the Senate attorneys, and others who are concerned that there are different jurisdictions and their interpretation about reasonable efforts and what that means for a young person who's aging out of care or going into a permanency planning process. So what we believe is that this bill is bringing clarity and guidance. So that way, local departments, the Senate attorneys, the judges, they have expectations, but so do the youth. They have an understanding now instead of these vague terms about what that actually means, the things that need to actually be addressed, and the timeliness in which they should be addressed. We are aware that the Department of Human Services has an information-only letter with some of the concerns, and we're quite prepared. We have a rebuttal document that we'll share with you, and we're willing to actually talk about this at this hearing, but we feel that there's no need to amend this bill. It's very simple. It's a very straightforward bill in which we actually are just making a little bit more detail about what those vague terms are for reasonable efforts. And on a personal note, both my parents were foster care kids, and my dad aged out of foster care. When he met a friend of mine in New Mexico who actually does do SINA cases, he said he didn't know that at some point in the United States we decided to get foster care kids lawyers, and that somebody was actually looking at all the aspects of what it took for him, kids like him, to be successful. And I think about my dad. No one set up anything about his dental care, and he needed it when he was young. No one set up anything about his mental health for the trauma that he endured. And for these reasons, we really believe as a coalition for a favorable report on House Bill 1383. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one virtual witness, Macy Wilson.
We do not have anyone under that name.
You have anyone for this?
We have Laura Wiltz, and I'm from 15.
Okay. Macy Wilson is not here. Questions?
She just texted me. She said she was in the waiting room.
If she's the I'm 15.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Macy Wilson, you can proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Macy Wilson, and I'm a former foster youth here to speak on strong support of House Bill 1383. It is such an honor to speak here today on behalf of all former and present foster youth. Growing up in foster care, one of the hardest parts wasn't the moves or even the uncertainty. It was how all of my needs were going to be met and treated with vague options. Adults around me would say they're working on it, but weeks and months could pass without anything actually happening. This bill finally makes sure that reasonable efforts are made and not us just being told things. I had a huge gap in my education when I was in care. It not only affected me then, but affects me now as a current college student. I feel like I'm playing catch up sometimes. I can't imagine how many other children feel this way. And if there are other children that feel this way, I want you to know that you are not alone. This bill will help fill so many gaps for children, and not just in education, getting them ready to make things easier for them as they transition into adulthood, giving them the tools, but also the confidence to continue to become successful adults. I've heard the opposing side, but my lived experience tells different. And adding this bill isn't going to make it longer for children to be placed, and it is not a barrier. It provides more accuracy in ensuring these teens will be safe and have their needs met. Closing the gap on education and life skills would be amazing for them. I wish I had this chance when I was in care to have a bill like this, and I can't imagine how many children this bill would help. I'd also would like to say that I'm only 22 years old. So I recently, left foster care a couple years ago, and I think this bill would really be impactful for children now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This concludes the favorable panel. Questions, colleagues? Delegate Simpson.
Aren't these fiscal notes fun this year? Says no state impact, but then you read down further and can you address why they're going to need 50-some workers?
What's listed in the bill are things that they should already be doing. I would love to hear the explanation as to why they would need more workers to do what they're already supposed to be doing. I mean, if you look at the bill, these are things that any responsible parent would do for their child.
Right, the extracurricular activities and in the plan. It just expands what's already in law. You're just
Exactly.
getting more prescriptive.
And
Is
actually,
that correct?
Absolutely. And most workers that are doing a good job already do these things. They already do these things. But there are some that don't, and different jurisdictions have different outcomes.
56 additional staff.
All right. Delegate Woods, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you so much for this bill. I've always believed that anytime a child enters foster care, the number one priority from day one has to be permanency planning. And so I thank you for the detailed information. My question is, only if you can do it in less than 1 minute, can you kind of give me kind of like a summary of DHS's concerns about it being too prescriptive and how you would respond to that?
So I guess what they're saying is that because we have listed things that they would have to do this for every child, but what it does is just gives examples. It says including. It doesn't say it's mandatory. Everything doesn't qualify for every child. Every child doesn't want to be engaged in extracurricular activities, right? So this applies to, and it's important that you look at the first word, meet individualized needs of the child. They are already responsible for meeting the needs of the child. It's just look at that particular child and find out what that particular child needs and look at these things. Enroll in education timely. They should be doing these things already. So I don't know, making it more specific and more prescriptive doesn't add responsibility. These are things that they should already be doing for these children. And including is not mandatory.
All right. Seeing no further, Delegate McComas.
I just want to ask a question. I read the letter that was sent by the acting director, and I guess I'm kind of concerned because it's like, what is the problem? Is that the department doesn't get enough support in budget-wise and in social workers, or is it just that they don't want anybody mucking in their bathtub, so to speak, or in their power structure? I mean, what seems to be the problem? Because you're right. This is, a good parent would do this, and I would assume that if you want to be a foster parent, they pretty much, look you over very carefully, and you have to be pretty savvy and approved. So what's your thought as to why this is a problem?
Thank you so much, Delegate McComas, and thank you for your support and expressing those thoughts. I think that you hit the nail on the head. They just don't want to be responsible for doing in law these things that they really should already be doing in practice. And most of them are. And I want to say, based on my experiences, I think it's important to say that most of them, particularly social workers, are really, really working hard to make sure all these individual needs are met. But I have been in review hearings and permanency planning hearings where for instance, the issue with extracurricular activities may seem trivial. However, there was one case that I was involved in where a very traumatic experience had happened, and the only thing that kept this young person going was being able to swim, right? So in her permanency planning, it became obvious that she would not have any opportunities for any extracurricular opportunities because she was going to be a primary caregiver for a younger sibling, right? That was very impactful to the unique needs of that child. And so while even some of these things may not sound incredibly important in here, they really are. And they should be the issues that are met for each one of these children. And not having ID when you age out, not being able to drive, these are super important things. And they really all should already be part of the process. It shouldn't be about closing cases and getting kids placed. It should be about preparing them for the future and making sure that we give them a great start. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Okay, colleagues, that concludes the hearing on HB 1383. Thank you so much for being here.